You came here to gloat, didn't you? That's okay. I love you anyways. Hey guys, how's it going? Welcome to D&D Optimize, another shorts that I have to get out today, and it's going to be a little slapdash because it's a little rushed. But we need to talk, and I need to eat some humble pie. So, since Tasha's Cauldron of Everything came out, I've done 12 episodes, full episode builds, right? Of those 12, 4 of them have, so fully a third, have recommended that as a race we take the custom lineage option and thereby qualify for a free feat, and then as the free feat we take Elven accuracy. We call ourselves a custom elf or a custom half elf. You're a half elf, half orc, something like that. And then you take the custom Elven accuracy feat. Some of you have said you can't do that, rules as written. And some of you have said, yeah, that's fine. And the D&D community at large generally seemed to be pretty divided on the issue. And so yesterday, in my Kaladin Stormblessed video, I asked you guys to help me see if we could get an answer from Jeremy Crawford on this. Let's tweet at him, and because I've tried and he's not responding to me. I don't know how many of you did, but thank you for those who did, and particularly thank you to Corvus. Corvus, I don't know your YouTube handle, if you have one or would care to share in the comments so we can all thank you properly. But nice job, because he's the one that ultimately ended up getting a response from Jeremy Crawford just last night. All it took was one day. So great job, guys. And he said that I was wrong. So I am here to eat some crow, and that's okay. I don't mind. In fact, you know what? It's probably the best tasting crow I've ever had to eat, I think. It is surprising to me, frankly. At first I was a little dismayed, but upon further reflection, I'm not all that dismayed. I am surprised. It seems like everything that Wizards of the Coast has been doing lately in all of the content that they've been releasing, from Tasha's Cauldron of Everything to like the Gothic Lineages UA stuff that they had a month or so ago, is all sort of moving towards like an unshackling or a decoupling of race in the game from pretty much anything, and kind of opening it up and saying, you know what, like, create your own character how you want to, and we're not going to tie your race to things like ability scores, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But it seems like, at least for now, they are drawing a line in the sand on feats, on racial feats. And maybe that's in part to, please the more, I guess, conservative crowd, not talking politically conservative, just D&D conservative, right? They don't love change and all of the changes that's been happening. Maybe, I'm sure whatever reasons they have, maybe they want to, not devalue Xanathar's Guide to Everything, which is where those racial feats came out in the first place, and that book isn't particularly old. And you know what? Maybe they'll change their minds. They very well could. We've been told that Jeremy Crawford isn't the official, whatever on everything, and who knows, maybe in an official Sage Advice Compendium, something will come out in the future and it will change. I don't know. I can't assume. I'll be curious to see. I am surprised, but it's okay. Here's the reason why I don't feel too bad about this. Yes, it's a little bit worse for the numbers for some builds, and we'll get into that. But the problem, I guess, with being able to do custom lineage and take Elven accuracy is that for builds that were damage focused and relied on dexterity or charisma or wisdom or intelligence for attacks, and that had a clear source of advantage or a reliable source of advantage, it was so clearly and obviously the best choice statistically for the numbers that it felt like it wasn't a choice, frankly, to me. And as you know, you guys saw in a lot of my videos, it was kind of like, I mean, we could do something else, but when this is so superior numerically, why would we, right? And so when one choice is the clear and obvious, has a clear and obvious advantage, it doesn't feel like much of a choice. So now it's brought a little bit of choice back into the racial feature. Admittedly, it's no different than like before Tasha's came out, right? Where I was basically going either variant human or an elf or a half elf on almost every build, not all of them, but almost. And we'll probably, frankly, go back to something like that. It will depend, right? At least now it might be variant human or custom lineage or an elf or a half elf. But as I've been trying to do lately, I will continue to try to provide at least one alternative option for the race choice on my build, just to kind of mix it up, give us something that's still good as per the numbers, if not, in my opinion, superior, right? But it's okay, because again, I'm not here to try and tell you guys this is how you have to do it, right? And this is the best way and the only way. It's like, here's what the numbers look like if you were to take this choice. Feel free to make a different choice and just know that it might, scale the numbers back a little bit. But if that is more fun for you to play it that way, great. And I'll continue to kind of take that approach. So the question, of course, is how does this change my existing builds that where I was doing custom lineage and Elven accuracy? And the answer, of course, is it depends. For a lot of you, judging by the comments that I'm seeing anyway, it really won't change anything because, of course, as always, your DM is ultimately the one who will decide if you can still do custom lineage and Elven accuracy. And I guess I've spoken about it already with, Corey and Preston and Dallin, and they've all said, yeah, this is, I don't agree with this ruling. This is still permissible at our table. It sounds like a lot of you are in the same situation, but of course, I don't think that I can continue to advocate for that in the videos that I put out, because I really feel like I need to try my best to stick to, rules as written, because I have no way of knowing what your DM will or won't allow. So, I don't think that I'm going to try and go back and redo all of my videos or update or post a video that's like a big, here's how custom lineages changes, or this custom lineage ruling changes these 8 builds or anything like that. You guys are smart. You can, I think, figure that out, right? Really, I think the 2 most important questions that we need to answer are, how early is the campaign going to end? That's going to impact, what race decision you make. And how consistently will the character be getting advantage? Let's take a look at just maybe a couple examples to illustrate, right? We'll start with my most popular video to date anyway, and I'm guessing probably it will stay this way forever, or a long time at least, the bladesinger. The truth is, the way that I built bladesinger in bladesinger 2.0, whoopsh, is that they were not going to have consistent advantage for a lot of the game, particularly once you hit level 5, and you stop using Shadow Blade due to the Booming Blade issue that I think rules as written. You can't use Shadow Blade and Booming Blade. That's another argument we can get into later. Unless maybe you are in Dim Light, but you're not always going to be in Dim Light, right? And even then, by level 7, you're probably not going to be using Shadow Blade really ever, even if you are in Dim Light, because Summon Fae was a little better numbers-wise. And then you get into animate objects, which is even better. So, for that reason, I think, because you don't necessarily have a consistent, reliable source of advantage all the time, you're probably better off taking either like custom lineage and a free feat that you need, like, say, Warcaster or Resilient Constitution, and or maybe even Variant Human. In fact, Variant Human would probably be better there, I think, because you want both Dexterity and Intelligence, and you're starting with a 15 Dex and a 15 Intelligence, and each get bumped by 1. Now they're both at 16, and you get Warcaster or Resilient Constitution, and that's a pretty great level 1 start, right? Or maybe you go with the custom lineage to get the +2 to Dexterity, and then you take the Piercer feat as your free feat, because that's going to give you a +1 to Dex, allowing you to start with an 18 Dex, which is fantastic, and gives you extra damage on all of those short sword and or rapier attacks that you're going to be making when you're not using Booming Blade, right? So that's a pretty good option. Of course, if you feel like you're going to rely heavily on Shadow Blade because you love having a purple lightsaber, and you think that you're going to be in dim light a lot for whatever reason, and so Elven Accuracy is very important to you, then you might want to go Half Elf to get superior stats, right? They get a +2 to one stat and a +1 to others, and the bladesinger can be a little mad, a little multi-ability score dependent, and so that's great. And in fact, for that matter, you might want to go like Mountain Dwarf. Mountain Dwarf gets a +2 to 2 stats, and put a +2 to your Dex, a +2 to your Intelligence, and then at level 4 you do +1 to each. And now at level 4 you have an 18 Intelligence and an 18 Dex. That's a fantastic option. So this is why I said that it's the most delicious crow that I've ever had to eat, because it feels a little freeing. Frankly, to me, it's like, okay, now there are, like, it's just opened up options, and that's a good thing, right? Now, of course, there of all of those things that I just talked about, one of them is probably statistically superior, but that's going to depend on your level. It's going to depend on your enemy armor class, and so we can crunch the numbers. Maybe I'll do it at some point. I probably at least have to update my graphs. Because it's going to bother me a lot to put a new build out there and then compare it to old builds when I know that the old builds aren't 100% accurate. That's a lot of work, so I don't know when I'm going to get to it, but I hope to eventually. Let's look at one more example. So the Needler. The Needler was a video I just released last week. Whoops. And this was a burst damage build that benefited a lot from having advantage, at least on their burst round, right, by using the net. And then Elven Accuracy gave them really nice, consistent damage across all enemy armor classes. That said, it didn't have a great source of advantage outside of their burst round, right? You were throwing that net out, using limited resources to do it, and expending your action surge and all of those kinds of things in order to pile on big damage in that opening round of combat. But outside of that opening round of combat, when your opponent's entangled by a net, you didn't, frankly, have a ton of reliable advantage, and so Elven Accuracy wasn't particularly great. And that sort of brings me to a point, right? Part of what makes Elven Accuracy strong is that it was giving us a +1 to an ability score and this extra extra D20 to roll when we have advantage. The truth is, the statistical difference between no advantage and advantage is much greater than advantage to Elven Accuracy triple advantage. It's Elven Accuracy is good, and particularly at high enemy armor classes, to make sure that you land those attacks, but it's not as good as just moving from no advantage to advantages, right? And what in part what made it really great is you also got a +1 to a stat. Now, Tasha's opened up a lot of new feats that also did that gave us a +1 to an important stat. Piercer, Fey Touched, Shadow Touched, Slasher, right? There's a bunch. And so those feats might now become a lot more appealing for those of us who really want to start off with like a +1 to an important stat and a free feat, and be able to start with an 18 in the stat that's most important to you. I feel like we just have sort of more choices, more options to look at. So getting back to the Piercer, what you would have to figure out is, sorry, do I care more about that one round of burst damage once per short rest, hitting as hard as possible, or would I rather spend that feat on something like Crossbow Expert that would give you better sustained damage outside of your burst rounds, and let you shoot take a bonus action crossbow attack, as long as you're not 100% committed to just thrown weapons only, right? Or you get sharpshooter feat early. You start with sharpshooter feat, right? Or again, go with a different race for superior ability scores, or a half elf for superior ability scores, but just wait to take Elven accuracy a little bit. Obviously it's going to delay things. All of my builds that went custom lineage and Elven accuracy are going to have to come down a smidge on the numbers. It won't be super impactful at low enemy armor class, but it will be at the higher enemy armor classes, especially the really high enemy armor classes, no question. Ultimately, I guess, in summary and conclusion, while I hate being wrong, because who doesn't, there's a part of me that's a little bit excited to be wrong on this today. I appreciate that a lot of you are upset, and you are as surprised and maybe dismayed as I am or was initially. But I think let's keep an open mind here. If your DM still allows it, great, and continue to do it, and it's no big deal. But if they don't, and or you really just want to kind of stick to rules as written and or intended, hey, what it's done for us is just open up more options when we're crunching the numbers. And variety is the spice of life, and difficult decisions are interesting decisions, and that's a good thing as far as I'm concerned. So anyway, that's, I guess, my little analysis, and I'm going to post a link to this as like a pinned comment on all of the builds that I've done in the past that recommend this, so that word can get out. Do me a favor and help me kind of spread the word. When you see people commenting and they're calling me out for doing this wrong, feel free to be like, hey, yeah, he posted a video there. But anyway, you guys are awesome. Love you, and we will talk to you soon.